If the teachings of the Bible align with the church, then Unitarianism is false. But if the teachings of the church do not align with the Bible, then Unitarianism is still false. The teachings of the Bible either do or do not align with the teachings of the church, therefore Unitarianism is false. This is the Unitarian Dilemma. If the church was canonized in the 6th or 7th century, now that church is either apostate or not apostate. If that church was apostate, then they had no authority to canonize the Bible, and therefore you cannot appeal to the Bible they canonized. If they were not apostates, then Trinitarianism would be true, because the entire church at that time was Trinitarian. Either way, Unitarianism collapses.
There are three problems with your argument and premises that you set out. First, the dating. I don't know where you got that from, where the canonization by Catholic Church was done in the 6th or 7th century. Historians and scholars set that up around the 3rd or 4th century in the Council of Rome. And even then, this is a little bit blurry. But the first premise of the 6th or 7th century, around that time, the Catholic Church canonizing the Bible, and around that time, the Catholic Church was Trinitarian, that premise is wrong. The second issue with the argument is a misunderstanding of the word canon. It seems to me that you think the word canon is this God-given authority or power that the Catholic Church received from God to establish an accepted list of inspired books and to be included in the Bible. But that's not what canon means. Canon, in Greek, comes from this definition of a measuring rod or a measuring rule. So canonization basically means that you're measuring out a text or manuscript against conditions or characteristics. For example, is this text mentioned by other manuscripts or other authors in the Bible? Is the message of the text consistent with the rest of the biblical text? And is the manuscript itself claimed to be the inspired word of God? And other conditions or characteristics that you would use to see if it's part of the canon or not. But it's certainly not an authority that the church has, and only the church has. Actually, anyone can figure out if a text is supposed to be in the canon or not. For example, First Maccabees is one of the books that is already that is today part of the Catholic Vulgate canon, which is composed of 73 books. But why is it that the Catholic Church has it in their canon, whereas evangelical or Protestant Bible does not include it? Well, one reason is because the Hebrew scriptures, even before Jesus came, are known not to include the book of the First Maccabees. Now, that doesn't mean the First Maccabees and the event counted in First Maccabees are false or never happened. The Jews do believe it happened. It is relevant to their history, but they know it is not inspired word of God, or it does not claim to be inspired of God. Therefore, they do not include it in the Tanakh, the Torah, and all the Hebrew scriptures that they follow. And then the third issue is it's almost like an admission of saying that if you do look in the Bible, and if you do use biblical scriptures, then you will understand the biblical message to present a Unitarian view, meaning that God is only one person and one nature, not three person in one nature or three in one. Because you're basically saying that, wait, if you're using the Bible or appeal to the Bible to defend your Unitarian view, or that Jesus is not God, then you are actually using a text that was compiled by the very church you're speaking against. So are you admitting that if you do look in the Bible and you do look at what his message is, that the Unitarian view is there?